Alright, so today what I'm going to show you guys how to do is how to remove the rear axle from a TRX450R. Mine's a 2007. I know it seems like it's a pretty simple task, but I know whenever I first got into this game that a video would have been something I really would have wanted to have, because it's a little bit harder and a little bit more in depth than it seems. So I suppose I'm just going to make a video to show you guys how you do it. Just in case you're new to the game, you don't know what you're doing, this will help you along the way a lot. Don't let the length of the video fool you. I've already taken the axle off and all the parts are loose, so this video is going to be a lot shorter than the actual thing takes. So let's get this started. I gotta get my GoPro on. It's a good thing you guys can't see me because this thing looks ridiculous. Oh, oops, I forgot to make that look like it was on there. Good enough. Alright, so obviously when you're taking the rear axle off, the first thing that you're going to want to do is take the tires off, which, oh look, as we all know, it's not that easy in real life. They don't just pop off. Alright, so the next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove the hub off of the right side. Comes off, there's a little nut on there. There will be a cotter pin in there that you'll have to remove. But then you just take this nut off. If you wanted to really know, I think this is the right one. It's a 1/16, or well, it's an 1/1/16. That way you guys know what you're doing when you go to put that away. And then you'll slide the hub off. It should just slide right off, as you can see. And then I usually just put mine for a convenient storing right in the axle, or not in the axle, in the rim. So the next thing I do to get out of my way is I remove the brakes. You just roll them up, and sometimes they stay, sometimes they don't. Alright, now the next thing is going to be the lock nuts on the axle. The easiest way, without having to spend a ton of money on wrenches that fit that, or crescent wrenches, is if you have a pipe wrench, it works just fine. You just got to get it big enough to fit around the inner nut, and you're going to loosen it by rolling it towards you. Okay, this is reverse thread, so you're going to roll it towards you and it is going to back in. Now I don't have everything on there far enough to show you, but once you get this backed off, you will loosen this in the same fashion. It's going to loosen in that way, and there will be this little ridge right here is going to have a cotter pin in it, and that's what's holding this whole shooting match right here together. And then once you get this cotter pin out, you can pull this whole thick piece out. And then you can just set it off to the side, because you won't need that until you go to put it all back together. The easiest way, once you get it loose, is just channel locks, because the pipe wrench is a little bulky and hard to play with. So once you get everything loose, you just grab a pair of channel locks, and you just go to town. Now, the next thing you want to do is you're going to have to remove the brake rotor. It's probably going to be stuck in there pretty well. So the easiest way to do that is if you've got a piece of wood, about a 2x4, you can just stick it in there, and you take a hammer and you just beat it out. If you're having issues, the 2x4 will barely fit in between the bearing carrier and the rotor, so you can just stick it right in there. And then, since the wood's not quite as tough as the metal, when you beat that in there, it's going to move down in between. It's going to force that rotor out, as you can see it has. Then what you're going to want to do is there's two bolts on the bottom of your, I'm at a loss for words. You guys know what it is. It's a guard. I don't care. You got to push that down out of the way. If you're still having issues getting it off, if you get it out far enough, you put it on the bracket that holds on the brakes. You can do that more. Mine should be loose enough to just take off at this point. And that comes right off. As you can see, there's a nice big chunk of it that slides into the bearing carrier. And then you drop that down off. Now the next thing you're going to have to do to get the axle out of there is going to be to take the chain off of the sprocket. Now the easiest way to do that is you're going to loosen up these four nuts right here. Well, I guess they're bolts. You're going to loosen them up. And then what I do is I just have an old railroad spike here. And if you can see this piece right here, this rolls the bearing carrier, and that's how you tighten and loosen the chain. If you roll it towards the front of the bike, top to the front, you're going to loosen your chain up significantly. And then what you can do is you can pull the chain off over to the side, and I guess it would help if it was in neutral, huh? pop that into neutral, move the chain off to the side, start rolling the axle back, and the axle will roll right off. Now all you got to do is, mine's loose. Once again, you might have to hit it with a hammer a little bit, but it'll just slide right out. Move the guard down out of the way again. And then you're going to get it out about halfway. And mine's lined up, but there's a point where it's got grooves in it, and you got to get that just right, and then it'll slide right out. So now you're good to go. If you want to remove your bearing carrier and change your bearings like I'm going to do, or if you're also cool like me and you have a new axle that you're going to play with, that's what you can do. You all can laugh at my mess of tools, but that's basically the gist of how you remove the rear axle off of a 450R, and it actually works right about the same for the 400 and any Honda I've owned, and I couldn't imagine that the concept would be very different for anything else. So I hope this video helps some people out, because I know it was a pain the first time I ever had to do it, so I hope you learned something today.